is a photograph from Pixabay of some fireworks, and this is kind of an interesting subject to do on white Yupo because of the black background or night sky and the very, very fine lines of the fireworks. It's something that would be much, much easier to do in a different medium like acrylic, or something that you could put in a whole black background and then with some very opaque pigments just add these fine lines. I think that would go over very quickly. And it might even be fairly quick if you used a black substrate with your alcohol inks, but I am not practiced in that. Actually, I've never done it at all. So we're going to do it on Yupo because I have said that this entire class was on Yupo. And the way I'll be approaching this will be to do it with masking. And I have just drawn on the paper kind of the outline of where the fireworks are. And I've decided to not draw in all the little lines to mask because I think we'll just have more pencil than we'll have ink. So what I'm going to use is just the masking fluid, a very fine brush, and just mask in the places where the fireworks are. And then do a full and heavy dark ink layer, remove the masking fluid, and add in the appropriate colors. And I think that the lines are going to be much fatter on here with the masking than we want. So we'll come back in with some dark ink, probably just a black fine tip pen, and come much closer to these lines. So that's the plan. I'm going to start with the largest of the fireworks and start with its center, which is about here. And then just start drawing out some lines. And if you have the mask pen, you might want to try that, or there's some very fine ways of doing masking. I've seen them, they're kind of metal applicators, but I don't have one, so still the brush for me. I'm going to just turn the paper. It's easier for me to work in a certain pattern. And that also meant turning the reference photo. It's not exactly symmetrical, which I noticed a lot more now that I've moved the paper around. And we'll be able to use the white pen if we need to do a little bit of touch-up later. But we'll try to get as much as we can masked. So I've returned the paper to the regular orientation. I'm going to add in this next firework, which is kind of starting in here, going up this way. And this really might seem like a lot of effort into masking, but if you look at it as kind of an investment that you won't be having to do other work later, it's probably a reasonable deal. At least I'm gambling that it is. Got a lower one over here. And we have some outer little flames or firework pieces. These are the ones that are kind of red. And we'll start this one back here. This one has an interesting kind of flame pattern. I think my fireworks are not going to look like the ones in the picture, but as long as it looks like any fireworks, I'll be happy. And I'll just let it dry. So now that our masking fluid is dry, I'm going to add in the dark background. And I'm going to use a combination of inks. I've got denim, eggplant, and pitch black. So I could just use pitch black, but I think it'll look a little bit more interesting if there's just a few other colors in here. So I'm just going to drop it on, hopefully, maybe. This is the black. It's not moving very much, so good thing I've got some eggplant to put with it. And some denim. And we might really have to help this around a little bit. Let's see. Wide brush I had kind of around. So let's just direct this around. My pitch black tends to go to green, which is another reason why it's kind of nice to have the option of adding some of that purple in there. Good right now. Okay. So I can kind of see the purplish color, the green. I think I'd like the layer to not be really, really thick. So I think I'll keep it in this vertical way. Let me see if I can pull off some of this lower level of ink. And I'm gonna let it dry standing up. So it might take a little bit, but I'll use this canned air and set it up right. So our dark background is dry, and I'm actually quite excited about it. You can kind of see it's very dark, but it's got a little bit of glowy blue in with the black. We have kind of a cotton ball boo-boo up here, but I think we'll survive with it. I don't think we used a cotton ball. Must have just been lying around. Anyway, our next task is to get the masking fluid off. And I have some concerns that sometimes with a very dark background, if you just rub quickly over it, you'll start to pull off a lot of the ink. So they have a product, like a little gum eraser, that you can use to pick up masking fluid. And if you have that, that might work. I have a pencil. I could try the eraser off of that. I'm going to start with just this cotton swab and see if I can just start to pull off these lines without disturbing the background. So the key is I really just don't want to make a mess of the background. I want to keep it nice and rich. And this seems to be working. Just kind of gently going across these. Okay, so as we finish up, we have to, you can start to see a little bit of the scraping through here. It's kind of a balance between getting the masking fluid off and risking marring the background. So I would suggest just doing the best you can. And if you end up pulling a little bit off, it's just the glow of the fireworks. So we'll just make it a feature. So here I've got most of the masking fluid off, and I did, you know, an okay job. There's still places that I can see where I pulled the background off, but I think it'll still look okay. So we'll begin by adding some color into the fireworks. This is very white. They are not white. This is kind of a yellow gold, and I have kind of, I think it's a light tan color. I'm going to use the marker for this. I think you could use a brush and alcohol. You just have to be, or not a brush and alcohol, but a brush and ink. You would just have to be very careful to not get it everywhere. So if you have markers, this would be a good place for them. And I'll start with this more yellowish color. I feel like this color's a little bit light, so I'm going to look for something a little brighter. And this is probably a lot brighter. No, not too bad. I think this is closer. I noticed even on the other marker I need to be careful that it doesn't start to bleed. I'm having to constantly kind of wipe it off. So these are kind of blue at the tips, but kind of yellow up until then. And they're a lot thinner than what I've got, but I think I can solve that with the fine-tipped black pen. Use the same color on the inner part of these more back fireworks. They get kind of red toward the edges, so we'll do red in this area. Maybe a little blue. This is a pale pink, and I'll use that for some of these outer pieces. I can tell right now this is a little too pale. I tend to like to use more than one color on anything anyway, so. This is a much brighter pink. Now that I've got this kind of fuchsia color in here, I wonder if just red would look better. Pop in just a little more yellow through some of these back ones. And this is some blue. This is probably a little bit darker than what we need. But the next one up I have is a lot lighter than what we need. These are way fatter than what's in the picture. I'm lightening them with this paler blue marker. I want to pull out a little bit of this, lighten it. This is alcohol in the cotton swab. Now I'm going to use the Micron pen and really try to thin down some of these lines. So I'm hopeful that it'll just kind of blend in with the background. This is going to be kind of a tedious little project. I think a similar process will happen with the white pen as we add back in some finer lines as well on the light side. So this is definitely going to require some white pen. So I'm thinning these down, but I will put some white pen back over them, and hopefully the pink will then shine right back through the white pen. Or I'll just add another little layer of pink over the white pen. And their blue ones are really fine, so I'll add a lot of black ink to these. Now at this stage I'm going to use the white pen and see if we can get some lighter lines through. And my hope is that, as usual, the white pen often picks up the colors that are underneath it. So we might be able to get some fine lines and then some really kind of finer versions of these colors. I'm going to come back through some of these pinker ones. They've got some more dotted edges. And I'm going to add some of the dots in here. Now, depending on what kind of white pen you use, I'm pretty sure that my pen is going to, the color that's underneath it's going to pop back through. If you're using maybe a Posca pen or something really opaque, you might not have that problem. And maybe you could have just drawn the lines in the first place instead of masking. But this is the Signo pen's the one I normally use, and it pretty much soaks back up the ink that's near it. So I'm going to go as far as I can right now and then let it sit at least for a few hours and see what it looks like. And then add some more color as needed, and maybe, you know, just finalize up some of the lines. But we'll stop right here for now. So it's been a couple hours and we're kind of settling in, but I don't feel like we're very festive. Well, a little bit festive, but we could be more festive if I splattered some gold ink on it. So I'm going to do that with the toothbrush, and that'll help obscure, I think, that spot there and maybe around here, and then give me an entree to using some, maybe a gold pen or something to add more excitement. So this is Ranger's Gold on a toothbrush. I think I'll let that dry for a minute. So our gold splattering is dry, and it's a little bit off to the reddish gold side, I think. I've got a gold pen here. I think I'm going to just use it for a few accents. We're not quite as yellow as I'd like. This is a Signo pen. And I'll just be adding in lots more color, I think, to my fireworks. It seems like a much yellower gold than the ink that I used for the splattering. So either there was something on my brush, or this is just a really yellow gold. Either way, it works. I'll add some of it back in here, augment the splatters. Pink in the photograph, but it's, you know, often we like to have a little bit more red in the fireworks. So I'm just going to dab it in over the edges. Do the same with the blue. Put a little more pink in some of these areas too, you know, as they cross over. This is the gold, and this is the gold pens, as I said, was a little bit more gold than the gold ink I did, so I'm going to just add it to the edge of some of these. And I'm not sure. I think we might be pretty close. Not sure if I need a little more white in any of the areas or not. So right away in looking at it, I wanted to break up this edge. This is the black pen, which is not going to be happy about coming in over top of all this other stuff. And I think I will do a little bit more if I can get the white pen to work. One of the things I just did without taking a video of was remove all these little red lines I had put in. So this is how I did it. I just took some alcohol and a cotton swab and just kind of erased them. So I believe we are good.